And if that were to happen, George, if the White House were to officially announce that there is some even simple little microbes living in the soil on Mars, everything changes. Your life suddenly gets a lot more complicated. And your sci-fi series goes into endless reruns. And they demand new shows. And a lot of people will probably talk to me in NASA who haven't talked to me in years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we could be on the threshold of something really interesting. Now, remember, I was the one at the Libertarian Conference.
Yes, you were.
In May, the night that Phoenix landed, that said that the White House probably was going to announce this before this election. Well, when you look at the mantle of change that John McCain has wrapped around himself now, it would be so fitting if the Bush White House, as their final positive thing they could do for an heir apparent, were to bequeath to John McCain the stunning news that there, in fact, is an inhabited solar system out there, and it's us and little tiny microbe-type guys on Mars.
Or more.
What that would do, they would only have to announce that. What people would do in their own imaginations is take it to where it obviously goes.
Exactly.
Because if you have microbes, as Carl said, it means that life has developed independently on two planets of the same solar system. Ergo, there's no limits to who or what could be living in the big galaxy, Mr. Scott, beyond, that could maybe find a way, given a more advanced technology, to come here. And then you have, of course, the bodied evidence from the last 60 years, Roswell et al., that somebody has been coming here and looking us over really closely for a very long period of time. By the way, I want to clear up something as long as we're on the subject. Somebody got the idea that I came on here and said that I did not think that UFOs, as representatives of ET technology, were real.
No, you've never said that.
I've never said that. What I've said is that we ourselves, the human species, among certain elite groups, have sequestered the information for how to build those vehicles away from the general population. And that if somebody were to suddenly appear over major cities in a kind of a disclosure event, the odds are it would not be genuine ETs. It would be our guys running a scam, a so-called false flag invasion scenario.
You know what? Friday night I had a quote. I had the audio clip of Carol Rosin talking about that and what von Braun had told her. And it seems like we're headed that way.
Well, based on the series that we put on the web, the von Braun series, what did von Braun know and when did he know it? I can now demonstrate that von Braun tripped over the idea that Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian relativity are not the last word in physics, and that he spent a lot of time quietly looking at frontier and cutting-edge physicists who basically were looking at alternative, radically different theories for how gravity works and how you might create anti-gravity than anyone would possibly imagine, given his background as a missile guy and launching satellites and building the Saturn V for the Apollo program. Based on that knowledge, George, I believe that when he told Carol what he told her, it was based on his personal knowledge that there, in fact, was some group developing this technology that politically, at the appropriate time, would basically jump in to the international scene and make some extraordinary claims and appearances for the purpose of misleading all of us into another direction of history. And that he was trying to warn her, based on his knowledge, that the physics that makes that possible is here on Earth right now.
Let's take some calls, and I definitely want to talk with you about your theory with Tom Van Flandern about Mars, because I need you to explain something about the water. But
okay. Let's
go to you, David, in Anchorage, Alaska, west of the Rockies. Hey, David, thanks for calling.
This is really an honor, Richard. I have been listening to you ever since White Springs days, if you know what the reference is. So, I really, and you've got me interested in alternative energies, and I consider myself
at least. Well, it's the only thing that's going to save us, and hopefully we now have a window where people are mad as hell and they're not going to be satisfied with concealment of really radical space-borne energy technologies that are, and this is the most important part, democratizable. What we want when we make this new transition to the next energy future of the planet, we don't want any more resources that a handful of tin-plated delusions of godhood, to quote, Scotty on Star Trek, can get away with hijacking all the rest of us because they own it and we don't. We need democratizable so-called free energy, and the technology is out there. It's just
the technology is out there. It absolutely is out there, and that's what a lot of people don't know. The zero-point energy, or the energy from the vacuum,
whatever you want to call it, it's all the same stuff.
They call it many different things, but it's all basically the same thing. And this is what Cern, they're trying to find this by just actually getting their hands on a Higgs boson.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know as well as I do that we already have the technology. We don't need to risk the planet to try to find out something we already know.
Well, see, that gets into the political realm that George and I were discussing a little while ago. The thing that bothers me most is the political arrogance of these people, because it's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel. And frankly, I think they're really honest but dumb guys. And there's two sets of books. There's two sets of physics. There's the real physics that make possible the things that you and I were just discussing. And then there's
you know about super systems, and these guys basically are in denial of it on that end, on the energy end. They're
a lot of them are not so much in denial as they have been carefully been manipulated. Remember, the only way a physicist knows about reality, unless he's an experimental physicist, and there are very few of those, is by reading the papers of the guys that are actually doing the experiments. If those papers are cooked, if the results are manipulated, if the skies on Mars are blue and not red, everybody, then how is the average scientist going to know? The average scientist, particularly when he gets out of his specialty, is as ignorant as all the rest of us are about all the specialty stuff that we're told about constantly is going to kill us on this day and save us on the next day, and we have nowhere to turn. We don't know how to find out the truth for ourselves, because science has become a priesthood as opposed to the process of discovery that it used to be and has to become again.
You said it almost exactly the way Tom Bearden would have said it. Now, yes, you know my references here. Now, you know as well as I do too that there are levels of technology out there that even predate Tesla, which are technologies that would produce all the energy we could ever possibly consume as human beings, and they're free and readily available.
Well, that's what von Braun, if you read the series, tripped over, was basically free energy, which was a double whammy. Because A, anti-gravity can't be allowed, because what does that do to the bottom line? And B, free energy, oh my God, if you give them free energy, we can't control them anymore. So the next energy transition, which is coming at Warp 9, cannot be drill, drill, drill. That is the stupidest thing, because what it does is put more money into the hands of the people who've been picking our pocket for the last 100 years in terms of oil. It's not the answer.
So true. Let's take some other calls. Say thanks for your call, by the way, David. Let's go to east of the Rockies. Bill in Chicago. Hey, Bill.
Yeah, scientists at Fermilab discovered a new subatomic particle, and the particle is called Omega-Sub-B. And it's in the Chicago Sun-Times Thursday edition. And this particle travels at 1/3 of 1 second, and it travels 1 millimeter and decays into lighter particles. So if you want to look up the article, just contact Sun-Times Thursday.
All right, great.
And one more thing.
Okay, sir.
When I worked for the Manhattan Project, there were two groups of scientists, and one wanted to build a super bomb which was so powerful they had to explode it in outer space. And another scientist, by Dr. Oppenheimer, didn't want to explode it, so they took Oppenheimer's security away.
Huh? Did